video, we'll be unboxing this 15-inch planer from Grizzly. Let's do it. Once again, I gotta thank my buddies here for helping me pretty much unbox all the tools that came in. The jointer, this planer, and the dust collection system. I couldn't have done it without them. So thanks guys. The entire machine came pre-assembled, so the only parts that I needed to put together were the cast iron wings and the dust shroud. It was not 100 pounds.
Well, 75.
It wasn't 75 either.
Maybe not.
This ain't no 75 pound, man.
Maybe not 75.
It's like less than 25 pounds. So the game plan for this was to lift the entire machine up off of the pallets and then slowly lower it down to the ground. We needed to figure out a way to lift it up first because we didn't have a forklift or anything. So one idea was to use a piece of wood and using the wood as leverage to lift up the machine, but I didn't really like that it was pushing up against the rollers. So one idea I had was to use moving straps that you typically use to move around appliances. And if you don't even lift, bro, don't even try this. With a lifting strap, we were able to lift up the machine a few inches and pulled out the pallet and then lift it over to a small little dolly that my friend brought along. And once it was on the dolly, we could roll it into place and then use the lifting strap again to lift it up and move the dolly out of the way. And again, if you're not comfortable lifting the machine with the lifting straps, just don't do it. We were both pretty comfortable doing it this way. We both knew that we were capable of doing it, so that's why we did it. So now that I have the planer at the final location where I wanted it to be in my shop, I'm gonna go ahead and install the two cast iron wings that comes with the planer. You could install it yourself, but if you do have somebody in the shop to help you out, then that would be probably the best way of doing it. But since I don't have anybody here to help me out, I'm gonna do it myself. See what happens. Two cast iron wings comes in its own individual box. You just have to simply unbox it and just be careful because there's a lot of grease that comes from the manufacturer. So you do have some gloves, go ahead and put them on. And you'll also receive another box with all of the remaining components. There are 3 bolts that you'll need to install the cast iron wing. And since I didn't have anybody to help me, what I did was I installed 1 bolt on one side and set the cast iron wing on top of that while I thread in the other bolts. These are the bolts and the set screw that you'll need. And once I had 1 bolt secured, I went ahead and screwed in the other 2 bolts, as well as the set screws, which will allow us to make adjustments to the cast iron wings. So what I ended up doing was removing the cast iron wings because these set screws are much easier to install when their wings are off. So I'm going to go ahead and install the set screws first and then reinstall the cast iron wings with the supplied bolts that they have. With my set of cast iron wings, for some reason the threads on the set screws didn't thread in properly, so what I did was I used my drill to hopefully give it a little bit of a push into the threaded location, but it didn't work out so well. On the wing that I'm going to install first, it was perfectly fine. The threads went in perfectly with no resistance. And here I'm installing it like I explained before. I'm just screwing in 1 bolt to give me some place to set the cast iron wing on while I thread in the other side to secure the wing in place. you got the bolts in place and secured, you just go back and forth and make sure that all the bolts are tightened. And then you just play with the set screws a little bit so that you can slightly level out the wings, which I'll do later in a final step to make sure that both the infeed and outfeed side are leveled with a straight edge. And if there is any snipe, I can go back and make some adjustments so I can ultimately eliminate as much snipe as possible. These are the three components that you'll need to install the height adjustment wheel. One thing I forgot to include in that shot was a little sticker that says up or down, so it lets you know which way to rotate the wheel. Then finally remove all the plastic that covers the cast iron surfaces, and what I'm using is WD-40 to pretty much clean off all of the grease that came from the manufacturer, and then I'll go over with some Johnson paste wax to wax the surface and protect the cast iron surfaces from rusting. And then finally do a terrible job at removing this piece of plastic on the control panel. Ooh. That's pretty much it for assembling this 15-inch planer from Grizzly. It's pretty simple, there's nothing much to it. If you do have a friend that can help you install the two cast iron wings, that would be definitely very helpful. The reason why I went with this machine instead of some of the other machines out there is because mainly price point. Grizzly has really affordable heavy duty machines at really good prices. Secondly, 15 inch is plenty in my opinion for my shop. Most of my cutting boards and most of the items that I'll be running through the planer will probably be maybe less than 12 inches. Could you get away with a 13-inch lunchbox planer? Definitely you could, and you could save yourself a lot of money doing it that way if you're just starting out. I used the 13-inch Porta-Cable lunchbox planer for the first 3 to 4 years of my shop, and it suited me just fine. I didn't really have any complaints about it other than planing really large, thick pieces was kind of sketchy if you don't bolt that thing down to a platform or something. I remember milling up the bench top for my workbench on that machine. It was 5 foot long by 2.5 inch thick by maybe 8 inch wide. Running it through the lunchbox planer was a little bit sketchy, and the lunchbox planer did want to tip over, so that's why it's important for you to, if you're using a lunchbox planer, anchor down if you're running these larger boards. But now that I have this machine here, it's going to be much more stable if I want to run longer boards, thicker boards through, and I won't have the issue of things tipping over and such. There was one thing that I didn't like while assembling the machine. That is the threaded holes that came from the manufacturer to install your set screws for each of the cast iron wings. One of the cast iron wings, the set of holes were perfectly fine. The set screws threaded in properly with no issue, and you didn't have to really torque it in. The other cast iron wings, the holes did not thread through properly. I ended up not even using them. I'm not sure if that's okay or anything like that, but the bolts hold it in perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but I'll be reaching out to Grizzly to see what we can do and if they can kind of send me a new cast iron wing or not, and I'll keep you updated in the description below. As I continue to use it in my shop, I'll do some reviews, or if you do have any questions, feel free to leave a question down in the comment below and I'll answer them as soon as I can. If you did like this video, smash that thumbs up for me. Hit the subscribe button because there'll be plenty of projects going down in this shop very, very soon. So you want to stay tuned for that. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. This is Bao with Design Craft Workshop. See ya.